Obviously, you will be in charge of whatever routine you decide to set up for me.
I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner. This works well.
Welcome to another episode of Health is Wealth. I'm your host, Kamal Haynes. And if you haven't guessed us yet, based off this instrument in my hand, we're doing the discipline of squash in today's episode. Well, I'm presently at the Tortola Sports Club in the Virgin Islands. And who better to speak to than a professional himself, the national coach of the BVI national squash team, Mr. Adam Morales, who will give us the in and outs about squash. Well, firstly, he will talk about himself and the discipline, as well as give us some insight on the attire and equipment needed. Then you'll see us working out, where you decide whether I failed or aced it. Then we go into the critical part of nutrition. And lastly, the best part, facts and myths. Follow me. Welcome back, everyone. I'm here with Mr. Adam Morales. He's the head coach of the BVI national squash team. Obviously, he will be here to show us a little bit about squash, the discipline about squash, and obviously how it relates to health and obviously staying fit while being in the British Virgin Islands. Welcome, Mr. Morales.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Well, thank you very much for joining us. Well, we will basically jump into the first segment of getting to know the individual and the discipline of squash. So for those who may be wondering, who's Adam? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name's Adam. I'm the BVI national squash coach based here at Tortola Sports Club. I moved out here 4 years ago after spending 10 years on the professional world tour. I used to be based in Manchester. I lived my whole life there, and then in 2018 received the opportunity and the offer to move out to the gorgeous BVI to be the squash coach. And it took me all of 5 seconds to decide that I was going to make that jump and come out here. And yeah, I've been enjoying it ever since.
Great. And obviously you did mention that you have been ranked in the 70s in terms of internationally. That's a huge accomplishment. It means you're world renowned in terms of the discipline of squash. So speak about, since you came here in the BVI, speak about how you have seen squash develop over that period of time, firstly, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you very much. And when I was on tour, I got to know there's one professional player based here in the BVI, so Joe Chapman. He, similar to me, was ranked just inside the top 100 in the world, and we gravitated towards similar events just because we were a similar ranking. So we met at various events all around the world, got to know each other. I also came out here to play in the BVI National or the BVI Squash Open. And he invited me out here to train over a couple of summers to have another professional with him, because it can be hard for all the professional athletes out here in the BVI being so isolated. So I came out here. So we already had Joe as a world-renowned squash player. So it's been great taking him to the Commonwealth Games, but it's been really fun trying to get everyone else up to that level as well, and trying to bridge the gap between Joe and the rest, and also trying to start at the grassroots level and trying to get as many juniors playing the game as possible. And the bigger, I guess my view, the bigger the base we can have, the more gems hopefully we're going to find and develop.
And speak about your ascent to the national coach of the squash team. Speak about that as well, because obviously you did come in with the experience of being ranked 70, competing all over the world in the discipline of squash. Speak about what made you decide, to come to the territory, take the discipline that serious, and also use your knowledge and skill to help others advance up the rankings as well.
So I was absolutely loving my time as a professional on the Pro World Tour. Squash is 100% my passion, and I was supplementing my professional career with coaching. So right from the age of 18, when I was out of school, I was taking my coaching courses, and I really enjoyed helping out at my local club, Bowden, and then further afield in Manchester. So it was always something that was on my mind as something I'd like to get into post-career. And then, yeah, when I was 28, I was struggling a bit with my body, and the opportunity came around for moving out here to the BVI. And I could coach my whole life and never get the opportunity to be a national coach. So to have that opportunity as my first, not that it was my first job because I was already doing a lot of coaching, but my first full-time job was an opportunity I couldn't turn down. And I'm really enjoying trying to build the program, and I'm enjoying throwing myself into coaching. And like I did on the Pro Tour, you know, I'm trying to develop myself. I'm currently on a level 3 England squash coaching course, and I'm really trying to be the best coach that I can be to serve the BVI and its players.
Okay, great. And speak about the discipline of squash for those persons who may not be well aware of what is squash. What would you define squash as from your professional perspective?
Well, good question. So it's almost like the younger brother to tennis. Everyone knows what tennis is. We can see the gorgeous tennis courts out behind us. So it's a racket sport played inside these 4 walls. It's very combative. We're fighting for the same area. So that's probably the big difference between us and tennis, that we share the same space. So there is a little bit of physical contact. I'm a little bit scared about the size of you because we're going to get into it later. So take it easy on me. But yeah, so it's a combative sport, sharing the same space, very, very tactical as well. Always trying to move your opponent around the courts, but massively fitness-based. So I guess that's why you've come to us as part of this health initiative.
Exactly, that would have been my next question. How does squash coexist with fitness and healthy lifestyle?
Well, so squash, it recently, by Forbes magazine, got voted as the world's healthiest sport. So that's, you know, a really cool thing for the sport of squash to be able to push itself. You burn a huge amount of calories every hour, and it's a really nice combination of different aspects of fitness. So the aerobic side, a match can last 90 minutes. The anaerobic side, so when you're in oxygen debt, which is commonly referred to in HIIT training in the kind of PT world. And that is exactly what squash is. You know, you're working 15 to 20 seconds, could be up to a minute and a half for a rally, and then you only get 8 to 15 seconds rest. So you're working short bursts, and then you're getting a very short amount of time to catch your breath. So your heart rate's going to be up at 180 beats per minute. Really interesting is that the top professional players did have heart rate monitors on recently, and you can see their heart rate just sits at about 175 beats per minute for up to 90 minutes. If they have a few hard rallies, it may go up and touch 200. So it's an insanely physical sport, and I think it's great for people looking to get a workout in a short amount of time. And in today's world where we're all so busy, you know, during a lunch break, you can come down, have a game of squash for 40 minutes, quickly grab your lunch upstairs, back to work, and they never knew you were gone.
Okay, excellent. And speak about, you know, how you have been seeing the discipline of squash developing in the BVI since you arrived as well. How is that community when it comes to squash in the BVI?
We've got a great community here, and I'm not just saying that because I'm based here, but there's a lot of good people at the sports club in tennis as well, and in the gym. So I'm really lucky in that respect that I get to work with them all. On the junior side, we've got over 50 juniors coming in every week and playing at least once a week, many of them playing 2 times or more. We run initiatives for women, so we have a women's only squash session on a Tuesday, and that's gradually kind of gathering a bit of impetus, and we're getting more and more women coming down, which is great to see. We have box leagues, so almost competition within our club. We obviously say, back where I was in England, every week you'd represent your club and go and play against a different club the following week. And then the following week, someone would come to you. We don't have that luxury here, although every now and then we will go over to Virgin Gorda. So we more need to create that competitive element within our own club. And we do that with our box leagues, which anyone can join and be a part of. So it just creates that little bit of healthy competition to try and keep it interesting instead of just playing your best friend every week.
And also too, I would have seen some initiatives coming out from the Squash Association recently, where you guys would have came together to have some games, some friendly games, non-competitive competition-wise in terms of ranked, etc.
Yeah.
But you guys competing as a unit to help spread awareness and come together and socialize as well. Speak about some of those initiatives.
So recently we had World Squash Day, and it was great to have yourself down here watching a little bit. That's an initiative that does go on. World Squash Day, it goes on the world over. So people in Poland are getting involved, people in the Middle East. It truly is global. And it was great for us to be able to partake in that. We managed to get just over 30 people down here playing. So we had 6 teams of 5 and a couple of stragglers as well getting involved. And like you say, it was just great to have that little bit of healthy competition. And when you have a big audience down here and people are watching, albeit it is friendly, a few of the guys said, you know, for the first time I actually felt a little bit nervous just because so many people were watching. And so to have that's great. Whereas we maybe, because we don't have those fixtures against other clubs, it is very much just social. So it's nice to bring that competitive element to it.
Okay, great. Let's talk about attire. You know, for those persons who are wondering, what do we need to wear when coming to play squash or partake in squash? Speak about that.
So I think this is a question we get a lot when someone's coming in for the first time, especially juniors. When a junior's picking up the sport for the first time, most common question I'll get from the parent is, what do they need to wear? So it's similar to what you're wearing, similar to what I'm wearing, just anything, really, especially for the kids, anything that they feel comfortable in, and for adults as well. Sporty gear is obviously going to help. It's incredibly hot in here. You know, the weather's always hot. We don't have AC in here. It's great that we're open to the elements, so we do get a bit of a breeze coming in, but it's very hot. So shorts and a t-shirt is your basic starting point. Then things that are specific to squash. So we're going to need, in terms of our footwear, special footwear. We have posters up around the club just to make everyone aware. The courts, these courts are brand new and they cost a lot of money. So I'm having to be on it in terms of guarding them, and people can't just come on with run-of-the-mill trainers. Squash shoes in particular, as opposed to, say, trainers when you're just out and about. I think a lot of people wear trainers just for the aesthetics, so you just pick a pair that looks good, and they don't really have any support. The squash shoe is going to have a bit more support around the ankle because there's lots of fast changes of direction, so you need that stability. And then most importantly, as we've spoke about, the bottom. So I've had these for 6 months now. I've been wearing them and they're pretty much pristine. You know, they look like they've just come out of the packet. When I come to squash, I'll come down in my normal trainers, and as soon as I get into the squash courts, I'll change into these. The purpose of them, first and foremost, is to not mark the courts, but equally they've got this rubber on them which is very grippy. So again, with those fast movements, it just means, and you're going to find this out later, when you're flying at 100 miles an hour, you need to be able to trust that your shoes are going to stop you. So coming in here with worn shoes isn't quite going to cut it.
So I'm safe in these?
You're safe.
Okay, great.
We hope. The rackets are generally around between 120 and 150 grams, so very light compared to other sports, maybe like tennis. So it's much more maneuverable in your hand. The ball is a smaller ball. I guess we can maybe go into a bit more depth with that later. So everything's a little bit lighter, and it makes it a very fast game. It makes it very fast, very dynamic. You don't necessarily need to be coming in here as a bodybuilder needing to be able to, hold a heavy racket. It's a light racket, so the sport is truly open to everyone. And anyone can come in and give it a go. One other thing is the goggles. So we do have in squash, kind of similar to, I guess, just a nice pair of, there's probably no way of describing them well. Almost like at a shooting range, if you wore those goggles, similar to that.
Yes.
So we have those because the ball is a size similar to that, whereby it can fit into your eye socket.
And it travels extremely quickly.
Yeah, it can travel up to 170 miles an hour. So especially for the juniors worldwide, and we have the rule here, if a junior is on the court, they must be wearing their goggles.
Or a novice.
Yeah, or a novice. So,
like myself.
Yeah, it may be me that needs to wear the goggles when playing with you. Your eyes aren't something you want to mess around with. First to 11, here we go.
So I'm serving first?
So you're going to go first.
The wait is over. CCT Fire is here. Experience ultra-fast downloads, seamless streaming, and even more reliable connectivity on an all-new fire-blazing super-fast CCT Fiber network. CCT Fire. Bring it home and upgrade today.
we'll have a little chat first of all just about the rules. And so for all the viewers out there, I'm sure there are going to be a few who don't exactly know how to play squash. So we'll run through that, and then we'll get into doing a few drills. I'll put you through a few drills, put you through your paces, hopefully teach you a little bit about how to hold the racket, the movements, the different movements involved in squash, how to move correctly, and then we'll finish with the game.
Great.
So that's, yeah.
So what will we start with?
So to start with, we'll just run quickly through we'll do the rules to begin with. So I'm just going to speak as if you know nothing. I'm sure you've already got a little idea, but I'll speak as if you're an absolute beginner.
I am an absolute beginner.
You are an absolute beginner. This works well. Okay, so it's pretty much always 1 versus 1. You can play doubles, and this court we actually have the ability to widen the court to play doubles, so we can play 2 versus 2.
Okay.
But we're just going to stick with 1v1. And we always hit it against the front wall. So that's the front wall. We're always hitting in that direction. As you can see, there are 3 lines on the wall. We always have to hit it above the bottom blue line, always hit it below the top blue line. So if it goes above that line, it's out of court. Put that other ball away. If it goes in on the front wall and then out on the side wall, that is also out of play. So this blue line runs all the way around the court, and at any point if it goes above that, same on the back glass, we don't see the blue line, but anything that goes above the glass is out of bounds. So you mentioned earlier to me that you play softball, no hitting it out of the ground. It's not a good shot in squash. Okay, so we're always hitting this way. It's always alternate shots, just like tennis. It can only allow to bounce once. So as soon as the ball bounces twice, you lose the point. So I'm always going to be trying to hit it away from you. So if I've got you stuck there, I'll hit to the front corner and try and make that ball bounce twice before you can get it. And if it bounces twice before you get there, then I win the point. If you'd like to, I said initially, it can't bounce twice. It normally bounces once. If you want to, though, you can volley it. That is allowed, and that's a good shot just to try and take time away from your opponent. In terms of the serve, so every rally starts with a serve. Whoever won the previous point serves the next point. So if I won the previous point, I have to choose which service box I go in. So these markings on the floor, we've got 1 service box this side, 1 on that side. If I'm serving from here, I have to have at least 1 foot fully in the box. So I can have 2, I can have 1.5, I can have 1, but I can't, if I've only got 1, have any part of it on the line. It has to be fully in. And if I'm serving from here, I've got to serve it above the middle blue line on the front wall and below the top blue line. That's the only time the middle blue line means anything. And I have to serve it.
So you have to serve it above, basically in this particular box right here.
Yeah, above the middle and below the top.
Okay.
And then I have to serve it into the opposing back quarter of the court. So it can bounce anywhere in there.
So you will serve it from an angle, basically.
I'll be trying to hit the ball up through that middle area of the court, or through the top area of the court.
So it can come over here to me.
Yeah, so an example of a serve would be like that. And it was gonna bounce back there until Kamal stopped it. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's basically it. In terms of who then serves the following point, if I win the point, I will serve again, and I then have to serve from this side.
Okay.
If you win the point and you win the service, you get to choose which side, and then you start alternating.
Also, too, we would have mentioned something about the dots on the ball as well. Speak about
Yes.
that,
So
and which one will we be using today?
So we've got different types of balls, and I'll try and get them in order for you. So you've got the red dot, the single yellow dot, and then the double yellow dot. The red dot is known as a progress ball. So this would mainly be used for juniors and just for amateur beginners, really. The single yellow dot is called a competition ball. This one is slightly smaller than the red dot, so the red dot bounces the most. The single yellow bounces slightly less, and then the professional double yellow dot bounces the least.
We're here with a workout segment where Adam is going to give me a little bit of a preview of what actual squash session will entail. Obviously, you will be in charge of whatever routine you decide to set up for me. Before we get into that though, I wanted to speak about, we see a lot of markings here. I know you spoke about the lines in terms of hitting the ball in between the lines, etc.
Yeah.
But also too, based off watching some of you guys play, it can bounce off the sides as well too, right?
Yeah, good question. And I should have mentioned that earlier. Probably one of the big differences with most sports and with tennis, other racket sports, we do have these walls, and you can alter the direction of the ball by playing it into the side wall and then onto the front wall. And it's a really good way of trying to catch your opponent out, because most of the times you're going to hit the ball straight onto the front wall, but maybe 5% of the time you're going to fire it into the side wall just to change the direction. So that's a really, I was hoping you wouldn't pick up on that for the matches. It's going to make it a little bit harder for me. As you're looking forwards, the front wall's there. We want the front edge of the racket to come down into the V that your thumb and your forefinger make on the racket. So yeah, perfect. So your V's there, comes straight into that V. So what that's going to do is it's just going to allow for the racket face to be, keep the gripping position slightly open as you play the shot. In tennis, they play with a closed racket face, which means the strings that are going to hit the ball are facing down because they topspin it. So hopefully you've not done your tennis segment yet. But for us, we want to keep the strings facing up. And that's just going to allow you to use all of the front wall. And people are always scared that if my strings are facing up, I'm not going to be able to hit the ball down. But I can still have my strings facing up and I can still hit the ball millimeters above that bottom blue line just by coming down on the ball. So that's really important. The swing itself, kind of just want you to be natural with the swing. So I'm not going to say too much about the swing to begin
I'm an
with.
average tennis player, so I should be able to incorporate it.
Every squash session starts with a little knock-up. So we're gonna, both of us just go onto one side of the court and we hit back and forth just to try and warm ourselves up. You don't necessarily have to hit it straight back to the other person. You can have a couple of hits and then send it across. Something that's really important is when you're on this side of the court, generally you're gonna hit your backhand. We don't wanna see you running around the ball and hitting it with your forehand, because you're going to take yourself out of the middle of the court. So the middle of the court, and for the viewers, this is the tee. So it looks like a tee. We're not very creative in squash. It is what it says on the tin. You always want to be stood there. After every single shot in squash, you want to come to the middle of the court, and then you're going to be close to all areas of the court. So a typical movement would be to the front, play the shot, and then back to the tee, ready for the next one. First to 11. Here we go.
So I'm serving first?
So you're going to go first. So, and in terms of just for the viewers, so they know, when you're trying to figure out who serves, you'd normally have something on the bottom of your racket. So 305 up or down. I'd say up or down, and you choose. Which one are you going for?
Up.
Let me have a look. So it's down. But I'm going to let you serve anyway. So as we said, 1 foot has to be fully in the box. I'd go with your right leg. I prefer,
So you starting all right?
Yeah. Good, and then we can hit it anywhere now. So that's a great shot. So for the viewers, if you hit this join, the ball doesn't bounce, and that's perfect. So you won the first point, so you're on the other side.
So you serve now? You
serve, so winner serves. And on this side, I'd recommend swapping your legs around. So still facing me, perfect. One love. Nice, on the tee. Good. Yeah. 1-1. Okay, so I'd go a tiny bit further back, a bit further backwards in the court. Yeah, that's right. Forwards. And so it's tough when it's close to the side wall. It becomes really difficult. So try and do the same to me. 2-1. One thing I should have mentioned earlier, if it hits the lines, it's out. So unlike tennis where you hit the line, it's a good shot. If you hit the lines in squash, you lose the point. Okay, 3-1. Bit further back in the court. That's it. Good. Forwards. Go. Yeah.
For some reason, I was expecting a little bounce.
And you mentioned like you played tennis last week, and that tennis ball bounces probably twice as much. So get into the habit, you're going to be moving forwards a lot. 4-1. Forwards. Good. Nice.
Whew.
5-1.
At least I have a point.
Yeah.
Ah.
And again, let's do that again. You weren't ready. 5-1. Forwards. Good. Oh, good shot. Well done. 2-5. And again, yes, so make sure it goes past the line.
I forgot what
Good, on the tee. Good. Get there. Good. Keep going. Oh, good shot. That's a great shot.
Ah.
I think he's hoping we could take a timeout, but unfortunately we don't have those things in squash. So you're from left side.
How much is the score?
What was it? 3-5.
Woo, only 3-5. Ah. Very good. I would have caught back my breath. I'm well hydrated again. And now we're here to talk about nutrition. And it's actually vital to speak about nutrition, especially after intense workout as such, as we would have seen in squash. So Adam, speak about nutrition and how it correlates with squash, as well as obviously staying fit and staying healthy while playing the sport of squash.
Yeah, definitely, hugely important. And I was on a webinar just recently as part of this level 3 coaching course I mentioned earlier. And one of the things that the English Institute of Sport, they try and push is that you get everything from food. So they try and make, you know, there are a lot of supplements out there these days, which you can get your protein shakes, you can, take vitamins, things like that. They're trying to get as much as they can from the actual source of food. So, from the ground, try and keep everything as organic as possible. And they speak about just basics really when they're talking to their juniors, maybe that are coming up through the elite system. They're trying to get them to think about having a plate of food with different colors. So with your vegetables, with your carbohydrates, with your proteins. And they're very much a fan of getting all those things integrated in one meal, as opposed to a keto diet where you're just on the meat and on the protein. Really important in squash to get the carbs in, to give you that energy. You're also going to need the protein for muscle tear. So yeah, personally, I've never had a cup of coffee or tea, which people question whether I'm actually British, given I've never done either of those.
You said you've never had?
Never.
Never in your entire life?
Never. Wow. It was a big thing. If you stood up in my household, they'd say, all right, cup of tea for everyone. So I just made sure I never learned how to do it. So the best way of doing that's never to have one. So I'd say, yeah, simple things. Coconut water is a really good one. Water, definitely. Don't stray too far from the basics, and water's, get your water on board.
Squash is a rich person's sport. Is that factual, or is that?
Diving right into it. It's probably something that the squash world doesn't want to, talk about, and it's something that in the past I think squash has very much been viewed as an elitist sport in certain areas of the world, and almost just to the point of it just being an old white man's sport. And the world of squash is really trying to get away from all that, get away from the elitism and make it open and as inclusive as possible to everyone. So there are some really good initiatives going on worldwide. I think it probably has been in the last few years or so that squash has really made a concerted effort to try and right that wrong if it ever was truly a wrong, which it probably was. I would say we're trying our hardest to get away from that. So I'll go for a myth.
Go for a myth.
Yeah.
Okay. Several tennis players also play squash. Is that true?
Yeah. Do you mean professionals or just anyone in general?
Well, professionals, anyone that take the sport serious, a club member, for example, someone that basically do it on a weekly basis.
Yeah, we've got a few here who cross over between the two sports. One player in particular, Dion Anselm, he's very good at both. He's represented the national team at squash, so he was away with us in Guatemala earlier this year at the Pan American Championships. Also an avid tennis player. And then on the professional scene, Roger Federer has played a bit of squash in his time. So, I think he's good. You just think he's going to be good at everything, don't you? So I think he's a decent squash player.
So that's a fact.
Fact.
Squash tests players' mental agility.
Massive fact. So yeah, squash is often referred to as chess on legs. So chess in the sense of you've got that strategical mental warfare going on out there. On legs, we're running around, your heart's beating at 180 beats per minute, you're running 100 miles an hour around the court, but you still have to have that mental clarity to make the right decisions. So that is a big, big fact.
You can burn between 600 to 900 calories by playing squash for 1 hour.
Yeah, so that is big fact. Squash is one of the best sports for burning calories.
Okay, great. So that brings us to the end of our segment and the end of our show. Obviously, Adam, I want to thank you very much for your time, for your experience, for your wisdom in terms of obviously teaching me about the discipline of squash, teaching everyone who's tuning in about the discipline of squash and the ins and outs as well as speaking about the different things that they would need themselves to get into the sport, etc. So what I want you to do finally is just for those persons that are listening right now and want to come and play squash, how can they get into contact with you to possibly get more information on the sport of squash?
So, well, first of all, yeah, thank you very much for having me. In terms of squash, we're at Tortola Sports Club. We're open to everyone. It's a members club, so you need to join to come and play. We do have a policy where initially you can come and try it out. So if someone said to me, they wanted to come and try squash, I'd free up a bit of time. We'd make them feel welcome. We have social events on the Thursday that they could come and get involved in. But in terms of getting that membership, give Upstairs a ring. They'll give you all the rates so you can make an informed decision on whether you want to come here. And then, as we've said previously, we do have a lot that we offer in terms of just as a club, tennis, squash, and the gym. We really do feel that we're an inclusive club and we're trying to get out into the community more and more. So the more people that want to come here and play squash, they're always welcome.
Okay,
So,
thank you again, Adam.
Yeah, thank you very much, Kamal.
Well, thank you for tuning in. Another episode of Health is Wealth, squash, an excellent discipline. I hope you enjoyed. Until next time, bye-bye.